Here are the materials I'll be using for this project. First is a wooden plaque from Dollar Tree that I'm going to paint. Next is red masking tape. Then 1/2-inch thick PVC pipe. Then the attachment pieces, PVC pipe 1/2 inch thick, and ping pong balls. First up, I'm going to show you how I removed the black text from the barcodes on the PVC items. I just used 100% acetone and a cotton ball and rubbed in circular motions, pressing pretty firmly to just erase the black ink. And it will eat away your nail polish. So it even ate through these like doctory gloves. So you're probably going to want those thick rubber gloves if you have nice nail polish on to protect them. So I did this on all the pieces, and then they were nice and clean and got all the dirt off as well. Next up, I'm going to work on the wood plaque. So I got this one from Dollar Tree. It's probably about 3 inches tall by 11 inches wide. And this is just something they had, but if you had scrap wood, you could definitely make your own. Just cut a rectangle, or if you wanted to do a square, circle, whatever shape you wanted to do. So I'm going to end up painting this. So I wanted to fill in the hole so it was nice and smooth. And I'm going to do both sides, so front and back. I don't know about anybody else, but I love using wood filler with my hands. No gloves, no utensils. I just love the feeling of it. It's so strange. But it just feels more natural, just getting in there with your own fingers. Okay, so I'm done with this. I'm going to let it dry for a few minutes. It's going to dry very quickly, and I only did one layer, so it's going to be super fast. And then I'm going to sand it smooth, because this was kind of cut a little bit rough. There was little splintery things on this piece when I bought it from the store, so I'm going to sand it smooth so it's easy to paint, and the wood filler is nice and level with the rest of it. Also, a little fun tidbit, I did have to repaint my nails after using that acetone, so you might want to think twice about having nail polish on when you're using that stuff, unless you don't mind repainting your nails. I just hate it. Next, I'm going to begin painting the wooden sign. So I'm going to have it say North Pole, and I just printed text off of the computer so I can trace it. If I had a machine to do vinyl letters, I would have definitely preferred that, but I just don't. So this is the way I'm going to do it. And I'm using the method where you kind of trace on the letters in the back like this, and then flip it, and then you can do it on the front, trace over on the front, and it will transfer. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm just showing you quickly here. I just did an E on the back a little bit, and then I go over it, the same lines on the front, and it will transfer over, just so I have something to basically as a stencil that I can fill in. Okay, so now I'm just going to use white paint. I just got this sample from Home Depot that I've had. So I'm just going to use this white paint and a foam brush and paint the front. You can paint both sides if you want, but I guess I'm just being lazy and I'm only painting the front. And I'm going to do 2 coats of this, so it's nice and bright. The paint has dried, and I traced all the letters on the back of my text. Another thing you could actually do is flip the letters before you print, and then it's basically in reverse. So I'm cutting this out because I made a rectangle to fit the same size as my wood plaque, so I can use that as a template. So it's all cut out, and I'm going to just place it on the wood plaque and then use my pencil and trace over the letters again on this front side, and that will transfer the lead from the pencil on the other side onto the wooden plaque. And I'm just going to show you quickly how to do this, sped up so you can see. It's definitely not the easiest way, but it's what's working for me for this time. Then some of it might not fill in perfectly, so you might have to go back and touch up. Next, I'm just going to use a red Sharpie and start filling in the letters. Could also do this with paint, but a Sharpie is going to make it easier to get the details of the smaller letters. So that's what I'm going to do, and then fill it in, and I'm going to go over twice to make sure the letters are filled in nicely. Now that my sign's done, I'm going to cut the PVC pipe, and I have a cut list to tell me how many pieces I need and in the size. So I brought everything outside, and I'm just going to quickly cut them in the couple of different lengths that I need. I tried to film myself measuring it, but it was not easy. So I'll explain a little later what measurements I took and how tall the pieces are. I use this saw to cut it, but it could dull your blade, so just keep that in mind. I wouldn't use a brand new blade if you're cutting PVC pipe. Okay, so I have all my PVC pieces cut. You could also sand down the edges if you had any rough edges, but I was able to cut them pretty nicely, so I didn't need to sand them down at all. So here's all the pieces I had, and all the little attachment pieces. I don't know what you'd call those parts. Okay, I'm just laying these out so you can see what pieces I ended up cutting. So I cut 4 5-inch pieces, which are these, and they're going to be for the part of the leg. Then I cut 4 4-inch pieces, which will be the crossbars, and then 4 8-inch pieces will be part of the legs as well. Then I have 4 T's, and these are slip socket, which means there's no threads in them, and that's important. Then I have a 4-way connector, or it's called a cross, and then these pieces, I don't totally know what they are, but they're a little bigger. They might be bushings, I'm not sure. So I'm going to start by putting the 4-inch pieces into the 4-way connector, and that's going to make the crossbars. Then I'll put the 8-inch pieces into one side of the T and the 5-inch piece into the other side. And that's going to make all 4 legs. You could also put some glue in there if you wanted to make this more permanent, but I'm designing it so I can take it apart so it's easier to store after the holidays. So I'm not gluing any of the connector pieces together. Next, you are going to take that crossbar piece with the 4, and you're going to attach them to all the legs. And you'll see you have to put the 8-inch side towards the bottom, or if you want, that can be the taller side too, but just make sure they're all even so it stands flat. Okay, and this is what it's going to look like when it's all assembled together, minus the one little wobbly leg. Next up is going to be making the red candy cane stripes with the masking tape. So my original plan was to try to make it a swirly red stripe, more like a candy cane, but due to the size, it was kind of hard to get that shape. And also I realized since I wanted to take this apart for easy storage, that it would be better to have it all separate to remove the pieces individually. So what I did was start with the connector pieces and wrap the red tape around there. I figured starting here would be good because I'd get a centered piece to base the other stripes off of. So I wrapped it around and then just took the edge of my scissor to make a score to be able to cleanly fit it into that weird crease there. And I was able to rip it off to make it fit in perfectly. Okay, and as you can see, I'm able to just peel away that tape after scoring it, and it makes a clean look. So this won't be very seen since it's going to be on the inside, but it still looks better than having it all wonky in there. Then I can use the scissors to cut off the extra and make it smooth in the back. Okay, and I'm just going to keep going up the candy cane, making straight stripes. Like I said, so it's easier to take this apart. And I just eyeballed this. I didn't measure it out each time. If you do want to try more of a candy cane stripe or try different heights or different sizes with the stripes, you could always use painter's tape first because it will be, a little more forgiving with taking it off and putting it back on instead of using your good red tape right from the get-go. So I did that first to kind of play around with what I wanted my pattern to be. Alright, now I'm just going to finish up and do all the other legs. And here it is all finished with the red tape on all the legs and the crossbars. I like how it came out. It's not exactly a candy cane, but it definitely still screams Christmas with the horizontal stripes. I also added a red line around the border of my North Pole sign, so that's ready to go now too. Now I'm going to show you what I did with the ping pong balls. And in the first scene you saw I only had one because I had done this previously. So I was able to bring everything inside and work on it right then. So I have gold spray paint, ping pong balls, nails, and a styrofoam block. And what I'm going to do is just gently push the nails into the ping pong balls to give it a base so I can spray paint around the whole thing. And you'll have to be the right balance of hard and gentle so you don't crush the ball, but you also get the nail in there. But if it does crush, you can kind of just pop it back out with the nail. So I'm going to do this for all 4 of them and then put them in the styrofoam block. So that will give me something to hold the balls up while I spray paint them. And I'm just using this gold Krylon spray paint. I ended up doing about 2 coats of this. So I sprayed the top and tried to get underneath as best I could. And then I came back later for another coat and really tried to coat underneath a little bit better since it was hard the first time. And then once these are all dry, I can bring them inside and start the next step of putting everything together. So here's what the final result of the ping pong balls look like. So I'm able to just pull the nails out, and as you can see, the styrofoam was able to hold them so no one side touched it and then got ruined with the paint. Okay, next I'm going to just use some glue. I'm using Gorilla Glue, but you could use hot glue or super glue. And just dab a couple little dots on the top of the PVC pipe. And then press the ping pong ball on firmly until the glue sets. And I recommend putting the glue a little bit inside the pipe, like just on the edge, because that's where the ball is going to actually be sitting. So you want to make sure you're actually getting into the right spot that's going to adhere correctly. So here you can see I'm putting it just on the edge a little bit, and I found that that's probably the best spot to do it. It's also good to note that the glue will peel the spray paint off potentially, so you want to try to get it set on the first try and use glue that's going to hold it pretty well. And the finishing touch is going to be adding ribbon to the North Pole sign so it can hang over the PVC pipe. And I'm just using a white gauzy kind of ribbon that I already had and gluing it on both ends. You could also make 2 little ribbons and glue it like doubly on both sides if you want to hang it that way, but this just seemed like the better way to do it and simpler. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to be done. And here's what it looks like. I ended up putting white pieces of foam cut out to fit the bottom of those bases of the PVC pipe, and I glued that in so the PVC pipe didn't fall through, and it worked out perfectly. I love how it came out. It's super cute, and it's going to be easy to store after the holidays.